Hey, Dr. Camille Renisi here with Ascend Physical Therapy. Let's talk a little bit about diaphragmatic breathing and your core. So when people talk about bracing and forming a strong core, what people don't often realize is that a lot of that stability, a lot of that bracing comes from the control of your breath. The reason that that exists is because of your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is a muscle that sits up in your rib cage like so. And as you take an inhale, that diaphragm is contracting. And as contracting, it's coming down. And as it descends downwards, it creates pressure in the abdomen. Now, generally, in a very quiet state, your pelvic floor releases just a little bit, it eases, and that pressure is offloaded. Now, when you need to generate a lot of pressure, say if you're going to do a deadlift or a power move and you need to do a little bit of bracing to stabilize your spine to lift the weight, you will find that you actually need to generate some force there. When you don't have good control either of your diaphragm or your pelvic floor, you run into problems like losing some bladder control while you're doing your lift. Certainly with any jumping, bounding, running, if you're finding you're losing bladder control, a part of it is that relationship of stabilizing your inner unit of the diaphragm, the walls of your core, and then the pelvic floor. So what do we do to treat it? Well, one is we start learning how to control breath work, and then we take that and we learn how to control bracing from a very internal space instead of bracing from a very external space. One of my favorite tools to do that is a balloon. A balloon just kind of forces the issue, right? You either can inflate a balloon and control the air pressure of the balloon, or you can't. Now, I will say this is balloon work, and balloon work is air pressure. Air pressure in your lungs, you have to be very particular about. If you, for any reason, feel any discomfort, like actual discomfort in your chest, if you feel dizziness, if you feel like you cannot control it whatsoever, then take the balloon away and do it just with either pursed lips or even a straw. Just anything that gives you a little bit of resistance to the exhale is good enough. I'll show you what works, and then we'll actually do it where you're laying down. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take your balloon, and first off, just try to inflate it. Some people can't even inflate it, right? That's your first step, is can you inflate the balloon? It is impossible to inflate the balloon without stabilizing deeper down, because this, as you blow into this, the air is pushing back into you, right? There's air pressure in this balloon right now, and that increased pressure is fighting against the pressure inside your system. If you can generate more pressure in your system than in the balloon, then you can inflate the balloon and control it. If the balloon is able to generate more pressure than you, it won't go anywhere, right? So you have to stabilize here. Now, the next step is to actually inflate it to the point that you can't inflate any further. So on one breath, how far can you exhale? At the end of that exhale, you're gonna feel a squeeze. Hold that squeeze and hold the air pressure in the balloon. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna inflate the balloon until I can't anymore. I'm gonna keep the valve open. I'm not gonna close it. It's gonna stay open. And I'm gonna hold it. And then when it's time to inhale, we'll pinch off the balloon and inhale. So here we go. Ready? Fun. All right. So what I did was I generated pressure in my guts, right? I generated force from both as we were exhaling, the pelvic floor starts to lift, the transverse abdominis starts to close down. So we're generating abdominal pressure to force more air out against this. That's bracing. That is bracing from an internal unit. That is bracing from the system inside. And that's the very bracing you want to experience when you're doing your heavier lifts. It's very difficult to learn this from a sitting position. In fact, it's a little risky because if you get dizzy, you might fall. I have a lot of experience with it, so I can start in the sitting position. But what I want most people to do is to start on their backs with their knees bent. Your feet can be flat on the table, but they can also be up on the wall. In fact, that's usually where I put people, is up on the wall. So just like so. You will find that as you do this, your back muscles start to relax, which is a little added benefit because you're stabilizing your pelvis. Now your back can relax. So give it a try, a balloon,